Our trip to Cornwall started with an exceedingly long drive. It's useful to have a car in a lot of places in Cornwall if you can handle the roads. Castle Drogo claims the title of the last castle ever to be built in England. Grocery store millionaire Julius Drew took 19 years to build the thing, completing it in 1930. For authenticity and insulation, Drew acquired several authentic medieval tapestries, like this one. The grounds are really impressive, including a small rhododendron woodland and an immaculate formal garden. Day 2 begins in Plymouth. We started our day with the ferry across the mouth of the Tamar River to Mount Edgecombe over in Cornwall. The British naval base Devonport is located adjacent to Plymouth, and naval ships like the HMS Richmond here are not an uncommon sight. Back in Plymouth, we visited the rather unassuming Mayflower Steps Memorial. Where Alyssa confirmed for us that the water is cold. Then we set out for a tour of the storied Plymouth Gin Distillery. The tour concludes with a tasting to help you identify the flavor of each botanical that goes into the gin. A couple of folks from the production were staying in our hotel, so we decided to go check out the Welsh National Opera production of The Magic Flute. Cameras were not allowed during the show, of course. Day 3 saw us back on the road, looking for some of the hidden gems of the Cornish countryside. On the outskirts of Bodmin Moor, in the small village of St Clear, we find the Holy Well of St Claris, built in the 1400s and revered for centuries. We saw in the local paper that the ancient ritual of well dressing continues to this day. Indeed, a Neolithic portal dolmen more than 5,000 years old. Rich with history, the ancient landscape of Bodmin Moor includes this 4,000-year-old stone circle, now surrounded by the much more recent scars of tin mine pits. In a way, the empty shells of the old mine engines echo the much older standing stones. Here, these relics of long-gone lifeways quietly underpin the modern tourist economy.
I'm standing on the Trethevy Bridge. It was rebuilt in 1412 on the site of an even older bridge. This bridge connected St Clear to St Neot.
Carnglaze Caverns is an old slate mine, partly converted into an auditorium, now set up with interpretive information for visitors. This is what happens when water drips in the exact same spot for a long time. The grounds around the old mine are really nice also, and make for a restful little walk after your visit through the cave. Day 4 starts in St. Michael to look at a monument with a little personal connection.
The gravestone I'm standing in front of is a listed object in England. It's from the late 18th century, and it marks the passing of 2 young children of the Gaved family. My great-grandfather's second great-grandmother, who lived in this town, was probably cousins with these kids.
We arrived in the gardens around lunchtime, so after checking out this cool earthen giant, we had some business to attend to.
We got pasties from Rose Pasties in St. Austell. Delicious. Would expect nothing less.
The Lost Gardens of Heligan, so called because they were neglected through much of the 20th century before being extensively restored in the 1990s, offer tranquil spaces, beautiful flowers, some birds and livestock, and a jungle with exotic plants.
That's cool. So cool. Watch out, Jeff.
Whimsical art like this subtle sculpture make the gardens really special. We arrived in Penzance in the evening and headed down to the water. We stayed in the Queen's Hotel, which has been open since 1862, and though its grandeur has faded some, you can still bask in generally intact Victorian comfort and enjoy some fantastic art hanging on the walls. On our last day, we headed over to Mara Zion to catch the ferry over to the famous St. Michael's Mount. Climbing up the rock affords beautiful views en route to the little castle on top. Though largely managed by the National Trust, the St. Aubin family enjoys a 999-year lease to live here among the tourists. The gardens that cascade down the sides of the mountain are stunning, both for their simple beauty and for the challenge they represent, growing such abundance in the saline seaside environment. Back on land, we picked up some cheese and some snacks and headed down to the beach for a little picnic.
So here's the yard cheese with the stinging nettle. That is good.
This pleasant little walk brings us to our last stop, the ancient village of Carn Euny, which offers a glimpse into Cornish life long ago. We first come across this unassuming well that fed the old village, before climbing up these steps and back in time.
So on our walk in, we walked past a local guy who stopped while we were admiring the view to say hello and to tell us about Goblin's Gold, which is a moss that grows inside the underground feature here that, when the light hits it just right, glows brightly. This is the underground chamber that leads just further ahead here to the Fogo, which I guess is a Cornish word for cave, and it's a feature not known from anywhere else except Western Cornwall. It's this underground room here of uncertain use. So cool. Goblin's Gold. Gold stashed by goblins? Likely. These round features are the houses that people were living in here. According to the signs, this site was occupied as long ago as the Iron Age. But these house pits here, these house features that we're seeing, date from the 2nd to 4th century AD.